I'm about to make my move, I waited for the tanks to come across to this side of the map so the metal would be easily reclaimable. I'm taking out the range first and then running down the line so that my units are engaging as few of the tanks at the same time as possible. There is a comm there.
This is AllReasonNoLogic's road to OS 25. Let's follow Pradith's journey from starting skill rating 16 as he makes his way to rating 25 and beyond.
Welcome back to Pradith's Road to OS 25. It's episode 11. Today we're switching things up and taking a tropical detour to the map Pinch Point, an island pair nestled in a lush biome where tactical choices abound. There's a big central crossing, flanking routes, and even naval, air and land opportunities to keep any commander on their toes. Now, if you've been following the series, you'll know Pradith's usual knee-deep, all that glitters, or stuck in the trenches on Supreme Isthmus is the usual, but today he's shaking off the glitters jitters and pushing past the Isthmus itch to broaden his strategic horizons. His current OS is 20.27, just 0.56 OS away from the halfway mark on this journey. New map, new challenges, and for the first time in the series, he'll be playing alongside Tank Tom, the third partner of AllReasonNoLogic. Let's see if these two players, known as experienced kings of choke points thanks to our King of the Hill Sunday community events, can master the art of this island brawl. Let's get into it, Tom and Prey.
So, quick overview of the map. You have 2 C starting positions. You've got 3 frontline, 2 backline, and an air in the corner. You can, in fact, throw your air player at the very top of the map, on top of these safe cliffs if you want to. That is also perfectly valid. Frontline player's role is to try and control this crossing. Just remember, some units won't be able to cross them like ticks, but what I did find out is that even though ticks can't go across, the rovers can, so that's a good thing to know. And because of a good call by Tank Tom very early on, we do know that they are coming across, and I can get something up to make sure that I don't get stuffed over by them if they do head my way. Critical to controlling this middle is also controlling the sea. If you lose the sea, that means that boats can interfere in the 2 outer lanes, and some of the lighter boats can interfere in the very center, so you've got to make sure you control those ones. Beyond that, it is diagonally asymmetrical, which means that you're going to have just a very slight variation in what you're up against, but nothing too crazy.
The only real differences between these teams I can see is that air position. You got a choice of starting up on the hill like the green player has here, and they've walked between all these mexes, so quite a slow start there. I would almost put the lab up and then build a constructor, in my opinion, to fly around. And then the brown player has gone into the corner where you do see 5.2 metal extraction there. So probably the better starting spot, in my opinion.
I would definitely start on that corner with that 5.2. Then my strategy, if I was air, would be to send a single fighter over in case somebody did exactly what this green player has done, and that will just stop them from getting that first builder out and shut them down for a little while. Always fun to do a little bit of a harass like that, even if it can set you back just a little. Frontline players are starting to make their moves outwards. Got 2 mexes right on the front lines for myself. Got to make sure that we don't lose the middle area, or we will definitely lose a lot of time and a lot of metal just from locking me into 3 mexes.
I'm surprised to not see any resbots taken to this 350 odd metal that's in the middle of the map. We've also got 2 more 5.2 mexes there, and there's also another one on each of these little, I don't even know what you'd call these, they're messes when they're on land. It's like an island messer in the middle of the water. Some other big metals. I'm hearing a little bit of shooting in the background. Is that naval engagement? I think so.
Yeah, it is just on the top side of the map. The yellow player and the blue player just going at each other a little bit. Does look like the yellow has managed to stop that tiny little boat push. And speaking of that metal, now that I have bottomed out on metal and no one else has taken it, my resbot is going around and grabbing it before getting back into that all-important energy.
really makes a difference, res bots. They are more value than you think. Looking at Techno Spiff over here, probably the most experienced, well, I am saying the most experienced player in the game with those silver chevrons. I think silver means you've had 1,000 hours in the game. I know I'm nearing that myself. So I might see my chevrons change shortly. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's certainly a lot of time in the game, and I do not. I'm glad that I'm not the one up against him, even though only OS 17. I would actually say that time played is slightly more important than your OS, because it is more of a representation of your capability to deal with things compared to the capability of picking the right team. Because yes, you can definitely influence whether you win a game quite significantly, but you cannot always. Right now, I've just run across and seen that I am against tanks. Tanks is not the thing that you want to be against when you are bots, because if the tanks start to build up in great numbers, the extra damage range and tankiness can become a problem. Pulling my units back because I definitely didn't have what I needed to engage there, and getting ready to try and deal with them where possible.
What you want to do in that situation, you got two choices. Either you want to integrate over and build tanks yourself, reclaim that bot lab, it's only extra 50 metal for the tank lab, or what you can do is know that you've got more units out at the start because they are a lot cheaper, and you got to aggress very early. So I'm curious to see, don't tell us yet, if you aggress and try and take advantage of that. But right now you can see your army value at 729 compared to his 720, pretty even, but you have numbers. So the thing bots do great against vehicles is that surround bonus, and we might see that shortly. Keep an eye out for that one.
While this is happening, the Maroon player tried to get a hover lab down the side, but is being shut down by a couple of herrings. It does look like our C player is not pushing up at all, so that's going to be a big problem for us as the game goes on.
Yeah, lockdown going straight into some frigates there. Good choice of unit, but looks like their build queue is just frigates. I do like to see a combination of a few frigates, a destroyer, and then maybe some dolphins. Cortex, you definitely want to throw in those the herrings for range, so probably a better composition out of the Cyan player Porana there. A little bit quiet in the middle, some aggression out of this green player, and does have a composition I love. The lashes with a Janus in there. The Janus just enough to stop the surround happening.
Just looking up to the top right now, this is where I'm about to make my move. I waited for the tanks to come across to this side of the map so the metal would be easily reclaimable. I'm taking out the range first and then running down the line so that my units are engaging as few of the tanks at the same time as possible. There is a comm there that's a bit risky, but with this much I know that I can actually kill the comm if I am aggressive enough, which I don't think I'm going to capitalize on, but that is a nice fat metal donation to myself, and is going to allow me to keep the unit advantage and try and take over this island in the middle.
I don't even know if you lost a single unit in that.
I did. I lost a pawn.
I lost a pawn. That's pretty good. 3 tanks, three I forgot what they called, the shell shockers and the stouts.
Oh, sorry, stouts. Yep.
Yeah. I was thinking brutes, but I always forget Armada. I don't play with Armada vehicles very much. Having said that, I do love the Jag. I've really fallen for them lately, so I do need to play them a little bit more often. Here comes the aggression on all fronts at the same time. Techno Spiff doing the right thing with the commander and getting that reclaim straight away. Tank Tom in a little bit of one-sided engagement there. Thugs definitely beating these pawns. A change of unit. Yeah, it's just happened right as I've said that. The mace is being selected, pretty much the equivalent to the thug for Armada. And Kratos still getting that advantage there, getting some LLTs down just so that those T1 units can run back to a safe point. Doing the same thing, reclaiming plenty of metal in the bank, which I like to see as well. Do we get some build power going down? We do have plenty actually in your base, just a lot more coming in than we can spend at the moment. Air players pull some shurikens over the thugs, are giving Tom that nice opportunity to take out and good little pool of T1 fighters as well. I do like to see that out of early air plays. A lot of players just want to get to T2 as fast as possible in air, especially in the mid and lower lobby games. Yeah, you miss so many opportunities by not actually going for that T1 air. You got danger over here. The gauntlet now going for the commander has decided at just missing it, and we could see a come fall there. A couple more shots and that goes down.
But unfortunately it has switched targets into that ball of units. But it is now back onto the comm. Would like to see that fall. That'd be a nice big metal donation over on this side. I think that shot will, if that shot had hit, I reckon it would have done it. Does look like it gets away with 2% HP. One of the things that I just wanted to jump back over to quickly, the bots versus the vehicles transition. I've currently managed to get 52 wind up compared to my opponent's 35. I've managed to stay about 50% ahead in wind through most of this entire engagement. And it's all about fighting smart with these units. You've got to try and take the small wins and then take the metal. Right now, though, just getting a AA up so that my units are a bit safe and I can try and do a bit of damage to that airline, just keep this player on the back foot, use that metal to continuously get units, use that metal to build up my economy. My ramping has stopped because I'm APMing on the front line. My 3 builders aren't doing anything, but I do need to get them back into building. But with such an advantage right now, one of the things that's running through my mind is, can I get up the ramp and take out my direct opposite player? But with the help coming from the purple side, that is going to be much harder to do. All those thugs moving across does free up a bit of space for Tom, does free up a bit of space for the orange player behind him. And it does mean that the green isn't quite so secure pushing because they don't have the numbers in the middle, so they could be 2-on-1 ganged up.
I don't mind what the dark red player is doing here. Tirasays, however you pronounce that, but going in way too much.
Ooh, that's a lot of defense.
That is way too much anti-air there. 2 going down at the same time, and as a result, you can see Tank Tom is actually split between 2 lanes. Few maces over here, which could easily be run by. You can see the size of this army from Techno Spiff. Just luckily no action there.
Also, these 3 turrets are actually in the way of the gauntlet. So the gauntlet can only fire as in its artillery mode. You really do have to be careful with those placement. And here we go. We've got a push coming in from me on this side with a lot of T1. Does look like that comm is going to detonate and take quite a lot of my units out, trying to run them away best as I can, but didn't manage to get them all out. But I did split well and get most of my pawns into the base, and those are going to run rampant through. The only thing that's going to be able to clean them up at the moment is those thugs and a couple of these banshees coming through, but that is going to take quite a while, so the damage done to the base is going to be pretty extreme. Could have spread them out and done a little bit better, but great air coverage by our air player, taking out all of the gunships that were coming to stop this push. It does look like I'm going to completely reset that light green player. No comm, barely any wind, no extractors, and that's a rough spot to be in. If only I'd built a couple of res bots and sent them in with it to claim that metal at the same time.
Loving the little micro here, trying to blow up that construction vehicle just by shooting at the ground. There's a nice little technique there, just destroy those wreckages so they can't be resurrected later on. And most of it being taken down. Unfortunately, 1 constructor left over at the end. That would have really hurt to get that down. That would have been a player completely out. They will make a very slow comeback, I am sure. And did you lose your commander? No, there's your commander.
No, my comm is backing right out because it was in range of that comm detonation.
Yeah. Nice full bank of metal right there for you, actually overflowing to everyone. And now donating that to Tank Tom so that he can get as many units out as possible. I would love to see this orange player move their tanks up. They've just been sitting there a little while, I saw on the minimap.
One of the things that I did do during that, because I was getting some reclaim on the front lane, I have done a T2 transition. I'm going to attach my comm to the T2 builder to get all those T2 mexes up and some fusions. Really good time to get that if you're in the front line.
Another commander snipe there, really nicely done, Tank Tom. The switch over to Mace has really helped you out there. Okay, yeah, T2 Max is coming up for Prey. We've got 2 constructed, 1 to go, and then we'll see probably, what do we got, Hounds, Butlers in there, I
Yes.
do like that for the wind and reclaim, and then the smugglers and the compass to give that vision and that T2 advantage. Oh, we've got an interesting transition over here out of your air player, going into some torpedo bombers.
I mean,
Trying to
I
push
think he
back.
sort of has to.
Yeah, wow,
There's a
yeah. Oh, wow, yeah, this,
That's
this,
a problem.
uh,
Oh, good com snipe.
this
That
lockdown
was
player did go into seaplanes for some reason at the same time. Definitely can't afford that off of that sort of eco, so very surprising to see that.
seaplanes are technically tier 1.5, I would say, and so that is going to be a big investment monetarily. If you can't even afford regular planes, seaplanes is not going to do a good
Yeah.
job for you.
Luckily, there's torpedo bombers going in, but the anti-air scaring them. But the keeping that edge of the map safe, I guess, those planes for now. We can see that the green player for the other thing. Have I missed an airstrike? I swear I saw a. Was
I
there
don't
an
think so.
airstrike up there? I swear I saw a wind farm here before. This is where the lab was originally.
There's a crater actually.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, I reckon
Maybe
there
some of
was
the fighters fell onto the from when the wind when the air cover came over to cover my push.
Yeah, maybe, and I reckon the build power was all there, because this does look like quite a small base for T2, and there is no...
Right now, a skirmishing fight going on between myself and the purple player. I do not have much in the way of units to defend this, but they are T2, they do outrange and they do outspeed the thugs. And you can see constantly stopping and starting them, making sure I've separated my smuggler and compass out so they're moving independently most of the time. Just trying to keep all these units max ranging into this to try and take out as many of these thugs before we actually start closing down onto my engagement range. There are a few Sheldons there, but the Sheldons have to be able to see my units, and with that smuggler, they cannot.
I just gotta say, really nice move out of the purple player here. There's 3 trashers in the water, and they're just being used for vision, I think. He's keeping them down out of
that. Makes so much sense. I was trying to work out what, like, there were times when they had vision and I didn't know why, and that makes so much sense.
Yeah, really, I've never thought of doing that before, just putting a unit in the water that can't be shot from outside the water. And Sheldon's not being used properly. You want to keep them behind those thugs. The thugs can take quite a hit, but Sheldons do outrange the hounds quite significantly. I think out DPS them as well.
Don't outspeed them.
No.
And now that I've taken out that entire army just by using this effectively really bad stutter step micro, this is a lovely little reclaim zone that I want to own and eat, because this could be a fusion for me, this could be a lot of T2 units for me, this could be a lot of things, but we do have a lot of danger coming up. In the middle lane with a Sheldon Bowl there, we do have a lot of good units out from Techno Spiff, who has the range, the high damage, even a ship, and now Starlight's backing those ones up, and somehow has managed to build up here. I'm not entirely sure how they've done that.
We got some constructors behind the hill. I can see a constructor walking down there now, and yeah, going for that T2 lab, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put something like a Persecutor up on the hill. That would be an ideal position. It might actually be able to take out that gauntlet with the extra range. Thank Tom, have we got you in channel here?
Yes, I am here.
I'm seeing you're really trying to cover these two. A good choice of the Fat Boy. You don't see very many Fat Boys coming out, but it's the kind of unit that plays the mind game, so we won't
I'd seen that a lot of his stuff was well grouped, so I figured a single shot or two from that does a lot of work. You can see that I'm getting pushed back in the middle here when Prey was doing his engagement just the other side of the island just before. I used that to push up to see what was around, get a couple of units forward, because I figured if they're pushing there, they're unlikely to be pushing elsewhere.
Oh,
those bombers just taking out the build power at the front. That's actually probably a pretty big deal for us, but with everything going on, one of the biggest stress points right now is the Starlights at the bottom of the map. They are going to push through, not completely uncontested, but relatively uncontested. Also, good mix of Arbiters thrown in by the opponent. Those are outranging my units and making it very hard for me to push in cost effectively.
Yeah, Arbiters, not very accurate, but when you get them in big enough numbers, they really hurt. Only 2 at the moment, so every now and then there's a connection, but it does a lot of damage when it hits. These bombers still going. I think, yeah, You can see green's going straight into a fusion up here. I would have liked to see an advanced geo go before a fusion. They're cheaper and produce more energy. Build a lot quicker as well. But deciding to go into the fusion instead of fighters, and then yeah, the last bomb has just gone down. That's what happens when you go eco without having any planes on the front line there.
I feel very sorry for that light green player just starting to get their economy back online, and the bombers hit their conversion in the middle of all their wind again, so right back down into the Stone Age.
Yeah, put your conversion in a different place in the base so that you don't get the damage. Few units being microed here finally out of orange, keeping those rovers from getting through, although we might see one or two get through. All it takes is one or two to get through, and Tom's base is very open at the moment here.
Yeah, I had a very wide front that I was trying to hold throughout this.
Wow, one of the smallest vehicles up against one of the biggest vehicles, and surprisingly, if you get enough of these, they'll actually win just because that turret takes so long to turn around. But perfect so putting that LLT right there, Tom.
Yep, you got to try and clean these up and keep them up and running. Don't know if you guys saw that, but the sniper just got shot by one of the
Didn't miss
Oh
it.
dear.
Oh wow. Yeah, what's happening up here?
A sniper did take a shot up there.
Yeah,
But it
Tom
looks like
actually microing that sniper to take out individual units. I like that.
you got to do it.
You don't have much to work with. You got to work with what you got.
Well,
And
you're not
the
working
less
with it
you
at the
have, the
moment.
easier it is to work with the little. And we've got a big push in the middle to try and dissuade green from pushing up themselves.
A lot of
trying to
micro out
keep
of you,
myself.
Tom. I would like to see a little bit more build power in the next one. There are only 3 turrets still.
What is your metal though? Oh yeah, you are basically full, which is not the ideal.
At the moment, I have been bouncing.
A Juno coming in to
Really good
to
Juno.
break any of their jammers and their radars, basically forcing an engage and allowing these Jags to be much more effective because they took one less extra volley going in, and then allowing my hounds to sit back and do what they do best, which is skirmish.
Can you tell
Backing
me
out
how
now
long
because the front line is gone.
How long does that
and this
Juno
is-
last?
The Juno lasts for quite a while. I put it up a lot earlier because I foresaw a situation a bit like this.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that was
but
your Juno,
with everything, yeah, that was my Juno.
Then you,
With
you're-
everything going on in the middle, I can see that I'm about to be flanked by green, and I start backing out. This rattlesnake is a big problem up on that hill. If I could get one, if I realized I could build on top of there, I would have attempted to build on top there with my comm earlier, and it didn't work, so I just assumed it was not a thing.
And during that engagement, my comm went down to Techno Spiff and his ball of vehicles that he's got down there.
Yes, come no more.
And here we go, a clash between the two, the green Juggernaut and the red Juggernaut, to try and go for supremacy. But we do have some hovers in the background, which are going to take some of that fire, as well as an air screen going over the top to give us a little bit of wasp protection. Hounds trying to get into this and trying to move on. Juno fires again to prevent any shenanigans above me. Potentially should have fired it in on that group down the
problem
bottom,
with these
but it
starlights,
is what it is.
They
Chain
are
reactions.
and they only shoot in 180 degrees. So these are dying here. The better thing for these starlights, like they're not going to outrun a hound pack, is just to keep them facing the right way and do as much damage as possible.
Stand and deliver and get as many of your other units in front, because
Yeah.
this one here, even though it's basically on its own, that's 2 hound kills, probably 3 hound kills by the time it dies. 3 hound kills by the time it dies. They are very strong units. But the green army has been defeated, and I'm in big trouble. Because
And I was very grateful for Prey's help at this point, because I didn't have anything to really back this up with.
Yeah. Well,
got
Prey,
to,
you have Sheldons, Shell Shockers, and Stouts coming into your base, and definitely not enough there, but there are some air units. Don't
Thank
see any
goodness there
fighters.
is.
Oh, there's some fighters.
Thank goodness there is very little in the way to stop this, and it does look like those will clean up. Their air player slow to react, which means that we're going to get
They've definitely got the fighters
a
for it.
very efficient trade there. And the comm
Oh, there's the
exposed
comm.
on the front. Very nice. Very nice. this player just not able to get any breaks, even with others handing them off. I was actually very surprised with that attack coming from the light green player. I did not think that they would be able to attack me, and when they had the T2, I got quite worried because I was like, did I leave something behind? How are they in such a good position right now? But the answer was that they were given most of that stuff, so not such a, or potentially, yeah, they were given most of that stuff, they didn't reclaim it, so not such a big problem, thankfully. And so the front lines have essentially reset again. Green and myself are building back up. Tank Tom has a moment to relax. By the way, these snipers that you've been putting out have done work. We do need the air player to take out that rattlesnake. It is an absolute terror on the front line. But beyond that, the thing that we really need to be focusing on is the fact that we're 24 minutes in and we're not all anti-nuke covered. Tank Tom's anti-nuke cover is coming up in a moment.
There is a nuke.
Pink has built it.
Oh, it's only
but
half built.
I have not even started mine, and again, just bad macro in the background. My T2 builder isn't doing anything, along with some of my regular. Along with some of my regular builders, you got to keep scaling in the background.
And I mean, you have
if
you have
can.
130 wind, and what I like and what I don't do enough of myself is I always get messed up with timing, and I just end up going for the quick, easy build of a T2 converter. But the T1 converters are so efficient; they only cost 1 metal. So if you can just do a bulk amount of those, if you've got plenty of energy in the bank, that's all they really cost to build. Get as many T1s down as you can if you've got the space.
With this game earlier on, I sent the constructor right to the back to basically do that. So I've got myself a wind farm field and some converters back there.
Rattlesnake being taken on. There is a flak that is taking down a lot of air, but it does go down to this many. And I think
with the airwave incoming, that could be
them all out. No, it falls out. I would have committed.
I would have committed too. That's so much metal. That's 25 25 wasps cost
8,510. That's how 8,510 metal. You just double click them all. You'll select them all.
Oh, it does too.
9,900.
Very nice. That's cool. I did not know that. I guess that all the tools are built in, and casters can learn new things all the time. But this means that the red team has taken a commanding lead in that middle zone, winning engagement after engagement and having all of that metal ready to reclaim. That is a very big deal. One of the problems that is left over is that the Navy is well and truly controlled on the bottom side of the map by the blue team. Something which the teams up here could definitely do is get some units into the water that might be able to help. Unfortunately for myself and Tank Tom, not on the correct commanders. In order to get ducks would have to go in with platypus, and the platypus would not do overly well in this situation.
Looking at the ecos in the background, you can really see the aggression that you two have been putting forward all game has resulted in your backline players, the orange player 4 fusions, the pink player 6 fusions, compared to the other team's backline. You've got 2 APHIS. Actually, that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
2 APHIS and a nuke, but whereas the purple player has been reacting the whole game and sending units forward the whole game, and not that big a economy. Sorry, there is 1 fusion there as well in that player, but definitely the smaller economy out of the 2. Okay.
And just building up and getting ready to go in. I'm very confused right now as to how they keep getting vision, but I've taken this opportunity to check. This radar just has very long line of sight, which is why my units kept getting seen. If I'd been able to take out that radar, I would have been able to position myself significantly better. Another donation of units coming down, and the hounds soon to be activated.
We're almost getting a yin-yang in the seas right now. There is a stalemate on the southern side. I think the Cyan player's just scared of those aerial bombers, the torpedo bombers, but blue kind of in the opposite position. Yellow doing really good. What do we got?
Yeah, those flags.
We do have a 5 chef player, so yellow definitely knows what they're doing there. The Dreadnought's a great battleship. I actually prefer the Armada's battleship over the Despot, the Cortex equivalent. It does have a few extra abilities.
I noticed that first nuke that was launched, I was saved by the anti-nuke that their backline pink player had built for me. If that hadn't been up, mine didn't have one loaded in the chamber and my base would have
Oh,
gone pop.
very nice.
Very, very well played by that backline player. One of the things that you do need to do if the front line is being harassed an incredible amount is you do need to try to cover the areas that they haven't managed to cover themselves. Right now, though, it does look like the economy has swung pretty heavily into the red team's favor, sitting at around about 800 to the 600
This
of
is
the blue
dangerous
team.
amount of starlights that pink player is curing
They
in the middle of the map
also
there.
keep facing the wrong way all the time.
Just go forward. That's actually enough to push the whole way through. I do not see this. Obviously, vision is a thing of hindsight in this game, but let's get a bit of tick action going forward and keep in the direction. Even this mammoth will go down in just a few seconds with that amount of starlights. Yeah. You have kept going with the hounds. I see the snipers are coming out now. Is there a reason why you're going hounds still this far into the game rather than, let's say, welders?
I don't like welders. And one of the issues that I was facing is the thing I was pushing into were these arbiters. Arbiters still outrange the snipers. I don't really know what they're doing to continuously have vision on me, but the answer is just that they were kind of blind firing and firing at the units that were leaving the vision. So it was a bit of a overly cautious thing for myself, but what I wanted was faster units so that I could get around and get through these arbiters, because the defenses they've been putting up have been shell shockers, Sheldons, and arbiters. And like what just happened here, I was able to dodge most of those missiles because I was just watching them go up and then changing the location of my army all the time and moving myself out of what I knew was vision range. And then trying to just position myself with what was going on. I saw this big push of starlight starting to head across, and so I knew that it would be reasonably safe for me to try and get around and flank them. So it was
And that
just
was essentially what one of the themes of this game was, that swinging support across the front line to help out as and when
Yeah.
We have a
required.
bunch of hovers and platypus going in right now from the maroon player. The maroon player being more focused in this C, which I do think is the right choice for them right now, especially with the strength that you two are putting out in the front line. Yeah, because there's just too much of a threat coming out of the cyan player on his base.
I agree with doing this, but I also think that without that Scion player helping as much on the front, it did mean that Tom and I had to play much more cautiously than we wanted to, because if we didn't, we would have been in a... if we were to lose a... Oof, this comm is going to get so much damage in. God damn.
Ouch.
God damn.
Hey, you know what you're doing though? I don't know if you meant to do this. It looks like you did mean to do this. Those archangels you got in the back, they are slowly taking out the airline. It's just a really nice parking of a few units in the background there. There you go. You've actually put those two on command to just go sit underneath the hill. I love that.
Trying to hide. I saw them. So bringing them up like that was accidental.
Yeah,
was to control vision.
Right. You can only see one of them.
Once I saw what they were doing to the air player, I was like, oh yeah, let's just hide these wherever I can and see what I can do. And it has caused the entire air to pull right the way back. Unfortunately, we didn't get air support to capitalize on it at this point, but the air player has done plenty for us by now. They've supported most of the other attacks. And right now, we are just doing
pushing through, so I'm trying to support those on this bottom side here.
Yeah, if they get through, I would have preferred... You got marauded, they are amphibious. If you just take them down into the water down there, keep them deep and then come up last minute, that would have been the better action, because I don't see them getting past balls. Balls actually do really well against marauders. I think the Zero are going to get into the base there.
But since it's the backline pink player who's controlling them and controlling those starlights, and the starlights are going through very successfully, I'd say that the overall done a very good job. I could have been better with the Archangel coverage to protect them, but that is a hindsight thing. It does look like our air player is coming in to knock down all of those, all of the gunships.
A little bit late though, but I expected a little bit of a lower OS player, but definitely doing very well this game. I didn't.
He's losing all their wasps though.
Yeah,
which is painful.
Yeah, that does hurt. one thing that I learned from our Discord, by the way, link in the description if you want to join the AllReasonNoLogic Discord.
Shameless
was
promotion.
The anti-air units, the Archangel and the Manticore out of Cortex, they don't actually point vertically ever. So if you've got a bombing run going overhead, they won't point straight up. They will only keep at an angle. They have to completely turn to then face if something goes straight over the head. So with those Archangels, if you've got a grouped army, you don't really want to keep them all bunched together. You want to have those Archangels spread out so they cover the air that crosses overhead to get them.
Just talking about taking out the air coverage, we've got a single Archangel standing in the middle of all of the debris, up to 45 kills almost.
Oh wow!
Just sitting there, he has single-handedly taken out most of the air in this area.
That's a nice silver chevron star on the middle of.
What a good boy! What a good boy!
I'd be surprised if that goes gold very soon.
I'm gonna keep him selected so that I can
Up to
keep an eye on him.
Oh, I'd love to see this get. Oh no, we've got some roughnecks there. Roughneck will take a lot to shoot down. When we get him to 60. Your team is a very commanding lead at the moment, so we're getting distracted by silly things.
Yeah, no, apologies about that. One of the areas that the blue team could have come back with quite hard right now is Reclaim. If they had been able to take control sections of this and Reclaim, then they would have been able to get, or even Reds, they could have gotten a lot of pulsars and things like that. He did die at 65 kills. Very, very strong.
You can see at this point, I've got a group of welders, and I've realized that I'm not being opposed, so I'm just going to keep on rolling with them.
And very good idea heading towards one of the backline players, because usually the backline won't have any defenses.
That was what I was hoping for.
This player has checked out of the game.
Oh.
You can see if there's actually 4 players left. We're just down to the highest OS player in the game, Karen, who is currently being taken on by both air and... Oh, we got a nuke overhead.
That was good timing.
Wow, and
Very nice.
Instantly they just dropped out of the game. Oh yeah, this was fully sighted, so we've obviously had some scouting before a nuke. Very nicely done, whoever did that. And your welders, Tom, at the same time taking out that build power. Is there enough here to... Doing the right thing?
I could see the build power that was there. I targeted the conversion that was next to the build power, because if I could pop one of those, I'd pop all the build power. Yeah. And then it was just a matter of cleaning up at that point.
What you want to do is, yeah, exactly what you've done now. Spread these out, get the surround bonus, and there goes that base. A lot of overflow eco has just been eliminated, and that was the last APHIS on the map, I think.
Just want to draw your attention to my attack on the screen player again. The green player actually does incredibly well defending this, and I do very, very badly attacking it. Because he's only producing a small amount of units, I'm just trying to get mine up the ramp, and in doing so, I've lost a large amount of hounds, a large amount of snipers, and just very, very badly engaged, because bulls are stronger than I give them credit for constantly. One of the things that I have been doing since I lost that big army is just trailing my units in, essentially on a fight command, one at a time, and that has gone incredibly badly for me. My damage efficiency has gone down massively just from this small bit of bad play. I am focusing a bit on my macro, and because the game is over, is mostly over, I'm not as worried about doing this. But just looking at this, I could have taken this base so much more efficiently and so much so much faster if I had let my units build back up to a critical mass of, say, 15 hounds and 5 or 6 snipers, and then if I'd send the hounds up first with the snipers following on a fight command, just so that those units couldn't actually get to the snipers, and then the snipers could get their high damage off to take on these units. It's not until I actually manually target the build power with the snipers and stop those bulls from coming out and fighting me efficiently that I actually managed to break through and finally destroy this player completely.
Really nicely done by what do I long names? Neck Procorn.
Oh yeah, continuously kept getting back into the game, never gave up. That is,
yeah,
like, and he kept me at bay for a very long time, pulled my armies back to
Even down
deal
to
with
the
his
last
attacks.
2 units in the corner here,
Yep.
just trying to keep them alive, even going for another lab that late in the
Yep.
game. So really nicely done. And good job yourself of self-criticism there. I see so many players throughout this game who, when they spect, hey, oh, you should have done this, should have done that. But when it actually comes to playing the game, it's so much harder to actually apply that. We've just seen the big pop of the last aphis go down for the green player, doing a lot of work this game, probably putting the most pressure on from the blue team this whole game. The cyan player finally getting a black hydra out, but just can't push in because it has to defend, unfortunately. What you want to do
Very
if you ever get a
unfortunate.
ship like that is just shoot up into these craters. You can see an advanced geothermal power plant up there.
Can
Pretty
they
much,
hit up there?
I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Maybe we have to test that.
Because it's quite a tall hill.
a missile
Anyway,
ship
that
will
is
get
something
there.
worth testing.
Guarantee the missile ship will hit those. We're just
Wow,
playing
this is-
cleanup. There's another nuke that's gone off, but I hear an anti-nuke. It was the air player that obviously did the nuke and scouted themselves as well.
Now that we're just in cleanup mode, it looks like Yellow's gotten their own flagship out and building up a force ready to assault the blue in the back. Though they, at this point, I don't think that they know that the blue player is no longer there. And the only real threats left are the air player. And to try and deal with that, you can see that I've swapped over entirely to recluses. One of the things that I didn't do here, which I need to be better at, is changing my waypoints. These are still waypointed to the very original waypoint of that building. So
Yeah.
rather than getting them where they need to go on time, they are just going to have to do the slow walk across. So do you reckon we should chuck this on some ×2 speed until things start happening again?
Yeah, alright, let's hit that ×2. Speeding up through this last bit of the game. I mean, yeah, it does seem like this player's still defending with the flagship just because it's got such long range. Complete cleanup crew, really nicely done out of a few players from the blue team. I do feel though that this player here probably could have gone into a ton of subs, just T1 subs, and assaulted the cream player, taking out a lot of this eco for orange as well, who's put, wow, yeah, 173 tidal generators in the water. That is a very strong economy, producing yeah,
There we go. Looks like
63,000 energy.
Looks like Yellow's flagship is just getting in and is going to take out the blue flagship. A lot of battleships coming in with it to help. And that is the blue player's last offensive unit dealt with. And you can see my hounds and snipers trying to get in on that action too. The recluses just starting to make their way up the hill now. They're on a fight command, so they're not all popping over there completely. Lots of healing going down on these structures, so they're stuck for the moment until the firepower is overwhelming. But now they're starting to make their way across. You can actually see that big gap of recluses because the waypointing was stuffed up. I have caught it now and the rest are coming across. But that they certainly all could have been there much faster. And if there had been a defense up here and if the initial spiders had been stopped, then the second wave would have had a much harder time dealing with it because the defenses would have even longer to get established. That is the last calm down and a win for the road.
Some strong players out of your team. A good job by a couple of the blue team's players as well. Blue player, well, took the most damage by far there. Nice little base that you have at the end there. Got your APIS up, got a fusion up, scaling nicely, not overcommitting to eco like some players do. As the frontline player, you want to keep scaling. Tom's done a really good job of that, ending up with 4 fusions, ton of build power. So,
looking
yeah,
at
right
the
top of the charts there.
yeah,
Prey.
looking at the stats. Oh yeah, well, if you're frontline, you want to be.
Good efficiency too. You can see the overall efficiency of the team, 106% there compared to 81.4. For the other team, that really is where the difference happened for the damages. Let's look at the graphs.
Yes, one of the graphs I want to look at for a couple of the players is the damage dealt graph. The the first 20 minutes of the game, just continuous fighting from the front lines, which is what you want to see. The green player did very well, so did the Cyan, so did Tank Tom, so did myself. But the purple player stepped in partway through that, but you can see sort of where they flatlined because they never progressed out of that T1. One of the other things that is really important to note, the air player on our team They managed to do a lot more in the first part of the game, even though they fell off after the 30-minute mark compared to the blue team's air player. But that really was important. That was really important because all of those jumps in damage came from the air player either fending off an attack that would otherwise have broken a front line, sending air coverage so that gunships couldn't take down the units that did a run by, taking out the forward defenses, things along those lines. So that was actually a really big deal. And even though technically the other the green player did significantly better by the end of the match, that it didn't help them. It didn't help them all that much. Their player was reactive and ours was proactive, and I think that was a big deal in this game.
And another one to point out is the damage received graph there. You can see Tank Tom featuring quite heavily in that mid part of the game when protecting both lanes, losing a lot of units there, which is expected when you're covering that much space by yourself. And that is because that dark red player did have to go and defend themselves from the Seas. I mean, they didn't have to. If I was them, I probably would have known the Seas lost and go send just a single T1 constructor out into the middle of the protected area of your backlines and build a bit of an economy there as a backup. All it takes is a few construction turrets to get up, follow it down with a T2 constructor and build a second economy down there and help out that middle of the map where you're most likely to win the game. It's just like a lot of sports teams, they say it doesn't matter how much the other team scores, as long as you score more. It goes for damage dealt in this game. All right, people, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this one. Please do hit the like and subscribe. We're aiming for 1,000 subs by mid-year this year. That's our goal, a little goal for ourselves. We do enjoy all the feedback we've been getting from everyone, and we're really enjoying how many people are jumping on board our King of the Hill games. Check them out on Sundays. Link in the description to our Discord below. We will see you next time.
Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.